A 55-year-old woman steps into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom wearing clothes that have fought too many battles. A faded winter coat, far too warm for the room, hangs from her shoulders. In her hands, a wrinkled plastic grocery bag, held tight, like it contains her entire life. Because it does. She's here for stealing $14 worth of food from a neighborhood convenience store. Bread, peanut butter, a can of soup. Not luxuries, survival. Yet the way she stands, the quiet strength in her posture, the dignity poverty couldn't steal, it makes Judge Caprio pause mid-page and really look at her. When the bailiff calls her name Margaret Sullivan, she lifts her chin with the discipline of someone who has stood at attention many times before. She places the grocery bag on the defendant's table, and something metallic inside gives a faint clink. That sound, that small, unexpected sound, is about to turn a routine shoplifting hearing into a moment no one in the courtroom will ever forget. Judge Caprio has no idea yet, but what he's about to uncover will stop the entire room cold. A hidden truth about service, sacrifice, and a woman the system quietly forgot. Before we go any deeper, subscribe to Case Close, because this story isn't about theft. It's about honor, it's about pain, and it's about the moment when a judge realizes that sometimes real justice means breaking the rules to do what's right. It's a Wednesday morning, 10:15, and Providence Municipal Court is running through its usual docket of minor offenses. Judge Frank Caprio sits at the bench, his reading glasses perched on his nose, reviewing files with the careful attention that's made him beloved worldwide. But when he opens the file for Margaret Sullivan, something about it makes him pause. The charge is straightforward. Shoplifting. $14.37 worth of food from Murphy's Corner Store. First offense. No criminal history, but there's a note from the arresting officer that catches his eye. Defendant was cooperative and remorseful. Appeared to be homeless. No resistance. The bailiff calls the case, and Margaret enters alone. No family, no attorney, just her, that worn winter coat, and that plastic bag. She's 55 but looks older, the kind of aging that comes from stress and survival rather than years. Her hair is mostly gray, pulled back in a neat ponytail. Her hands are chapped and red from cold and work. But it's her posture that Judge Caprio notices most. Despite everything, she stands straight, shoulders back, chin up. There's military bearing in the way she approaches the bench. "Miss Sullivan," Judge Caprio begins gently, his voice carrying the grandfatherly warmth that's become his signature. "I see you're charged with shoplifting from Murphy's Corner Store. Do you have an attorney?" "No, Your Honor." Margaret's voice is quiet but clear. "I can't afford one." "That's all right. I'll make sure you understand everything. Can you tell me what happened?" Margaret takes a breath. "Your Honor, I took a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a can of soup.
Total was $14.37. I didn't have the money to pay for it. I was hungry. That's not an excuse, just the truth." Judge Caprio sets down his pen. "Miss Sullivan, the store owner, is here today. Mr. Murphy, would you like to address the court?" An elderly man in his 70s stands from the gallery. "Joseph Murphy, owner of Murphy's Corner Store for 43 years. Your Honor," Mr. Murphy begins, and his voice is softer than expected, "I called the police because I have to. I have cameras, I have procedures, but I want the court to know that Miss Sullivan has never caused trouble before. When the officer arrived, she didn't run. She didn't make excuses. She just said she was sorry, and she was hungry." He pauses, clearly uncomfortable. "Your Honor, I'm not pressing charges. I just want that on the record. I'm not seeking restitution. I thought she needed help, and I didn't know how else to get it for her." The courtroom is very quiet. This isn't the usual shoplifting case. Judge Caprio looks at Margaret with new attention. "Miss Sullivan, Mr. Murphy isn't pressing charges. That's significant. But I need to understand your situation. The police report says you appear to be homeless. Is that accurate?" Margaret's composure cracks slightly. "Yes, Your Honor. I've been homeless for 8 months now." "Can you tell me how that happened?" Margaret looks down at her hands, and when she speaks, her voice is steady, but there's an ocean of grief underneath. "My husband died 3 years ago. Sergeant Thomas Sullivan. United States Marine Corps. 22 years of service. Iraq, Afghanistan. 2 Purple Hearts. She stops, collecting herself. When Tommy died, it was complications from injuries he got in Fallujah. The VA covered some of it, but not everything. We had medical bills. I used our savings. Then I used our retirement. Then I mortgaged the house. After he died, I thought the VA benefits would continue. His pension, his healthcare coverage for me. But there was paperwork, forms I didn't understand, deadlines I missed because I was grieving. And then one day, the benefits just stopped. Judge Caprio is leaning forward now, completely focused. I tried to fight it, Margaret continues. Called the VA. Got transferred 20 times. No one could help me. Meanwhile, the mortgage was due. I got behind, then I got foreclosed on. Lost the house 6 months after losing Tommy. Your Honor, I'm not looking for sympathy. I made mistakes. I should have asked for help sooner. I should have understood the paperwork better, but I didn't. And now I'm living in my car when it runs, or in shelters when they have space. And you were hungry? Judge Caprio says quietly, Yes, Your Honor. I was hungry. Judge Caprio glances at the plastic bag Margaret set down. Miss Sullivan, may I ask what's in that bag? Margaret hesitates. It's personal items, Your Honor. Would you be comfortable showing me? Margaret's hand trembles slightly as she reaches for the bag. She opens it slowly, like she's revealing something sacred. And she is. Inside the bag, nestled carefully in an old T-shirt for protection, are military medals. 2 Purple Hearts, a Bronze Star, a Good Conduct Medal, campaign ribbons, and a folded American flag. Margaret's voice breaks. This is all I have left of Tommy. I've sold everything else. Our furniture, my wedding ring, his watch, everything. But I can't. I can't sell these. I tried. I went to a pawn shop last week. Put them on the counter. The man offered me $300. She wipes her eyes. $300 for 22 years of service. For 2 times he nearly died for his country. For all the nights I waited up wondering if he'd come home, $300. I couldn't do it. I took them back, and I left. And that's when I realized I had no money for food. So I went to Murphy's store, and I took the bread, and I got caught, and I deserved to get caught because what I did was wrong. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Even the court reporter has stopped typing to listen. Judge Caprio removes his glasses and sets them down carefully. His eyes are wet. Miss Sullivan, he says, and his voice is thick with emotion. Your husband served this country with honor. He earned every one of those medals. And you've been serving too, supporting him, waiting for him, caring for him when he came home injured. That's service too. He looks out at the courtroom. And then our system failed you both. The VA failed you. The mortgage company failed you. And now you're standing in my courtroom for trying to feed yourself. Judge Caprio stands up from the bench, something he rarely does. He walks around to the front, eliminating the formal barrier between judge and defendant. Miss Sullivan, Maggie, I'm not going to allow this case to proceed. The charge is dismissed. Completely dismissed. You're not a criminal. You're a veteran's widow who fell through the cracks of a system that should have caught you. Maggie starts crying, quietly at first, then with the kind of sobs that come from months of held-in grief and fear. But I'm not done, Judge Caprio continues. Officer Rearin, you're the one who arrested Miss Sullivan. Would you approach? A police officer in his 40s stands and comes forward. Your Honor. Officer, Judge Caprio says, I know you were just doing your job, but I need to ask you something. In your report, you noted Miss Sullivan was cooperative. Can you elaborate? Officer Rearin nods. Your Honor, when I arrived, Miss Sullivan didn't run, didn't make excuses. She was sitting on the curb outside the store with the items in her lap, waiting. She said, I'm sorry. I know what I did was wrong. I'm ready to face the consequences. In 20 years as an officer, I've never seen someone so willing to take responsibility. He looks at Maggie. Ma'am, I'm sorry I had to arrest you, but you made it easy to treat you with dignity. Judge Caprio addresses the courtroom. Here's what I'm going to do. And I add everyone's help. This woman served our country through her husband's service. She deserves better than this. He turns to the bailiff. Tony, I want you to contact the VA right now, today. I want someone from their office in this courtroom by this afternoon to sort out Miss Sullivan's benefits. I don't care about their procedures. I don't care about their paperwork. A Marine's widow is homeless in my city, and that ends today. Your Honor, a woman in the gallery stands. My name is Patricia Chen. I'm an attorney. I specialize in VA benefits cases. I'll represent Miss Sullivan pro bono. I'll get her benefits reinstated. Judge Caprio nods gratefully. Thank you, Miss Chen. Who else? An older man stands. Frank DiMartino. I own DiMartino Construction. Miss Sullivan, we're renovating an apartment building in Federal Hill. One of the units is ready. It's yours, rent-free for 6 months while you get back on your feet. A woman in her 40s stands. I am Sandra Wu. I run Hope Transitional Services. We help people exiting homelessness. Miss Sullivan will provide furniture, household items, clothes, everything you need. One by one, people stand. A restaurant owner offers a job. A doctor offers free health care. A woman from a church group offers immediate emergency cash. The director of a veterans organization offers comprehensive support services. Within 5 minutes, Margaret Sullivan goes from homeless and hungry to having housing, employment, legal representation, and a support network. Judge Caprio is crying now, not bothering to hide it. This is what community looks like. This is what honoring our veterans looks like. He turns back to Maggie, who is sobbing into her hands. Miss Sullivan, Maggie, look at me. She looks up, face wet with tears. You came in here thinking you were a criminal, but you're not. You're a hero's wife. You're a survivor. You're someone who valued her husband's honor more than $300. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. I'm giving you my personal phone number. He writes it on a piece of paper. If anyone from the VA gives you trouble, if anyone doesn't help you the way they should, you call me directly. Do you understand? Maggie nods, unable to speak. And those medals, Judge Caprio says, pointing to the plastic bag, those never get sold, ever. Those are your husband's legacy, your legacy. They belong in a place of honor. The apartment I'm giving her, Mr. DiMartino speaks up, it has a built-in display case. Those medals are going in there properly mounted with a light so everyone who visits knows the kind of man Sergeant Sullivan was.
Judge Caprio picks up his gavel. Case dismissed with prejudice. Miss Sullivan, you're free to go, but you're not going alone. As Maggie stands there, overwhelmed, Patricia Chen approaches. Miss Sullivan, I need you to come with me. We're going to the VA office right now. We're not leaving until your benefits are reinstated. Frank DiMartino steps forward. After that, I'm taking you to your new apartment. We'll stop and get you some groceries on the way. Real food, as much as you want. Sandra Wu joins them. And tomorrow, we'll go shopping for everything else you need. Clothes, toiletries, household items, everything. Officer Reardon approaches quietly. Ma'am, I'm truly sorry for arresting you, but I'm glad it led to this, and thank you for your husband's service. Maggie looks around at all these strangers who have become helpers, and she says the first thing that comes to mind. Tommy would be so grateful. He always said, Americans take care of their own. He was right. Mr. Murphy, the store owner, approaches. Miss Sullivan, I'm sorry I called the police. I should have just given you the food. You did the right thing, Maggie says. You got me help I didn't know how to ask for. Judge Caprio watches all of this, and then he does something unprecedented. He addresses the entire courtroom. I want everyone here to remember this moment. Remember that sometimes the people standing before us aren't criminals. They're casualties. Casualties of systems that failed them, of circumstances that overwhelmed them, of grief that broke them. Margaret Sullivan didn't need punishment. She needed help. And today, this community gave it to her. That's justice. Real justice. The gallery breaks into applause. It starts with one person and builds until the entire courtroom is standing clapping for Maggie, for Judge Caprio, for the community that came together. Maggie stands there clutching that plastic bag with her husband's medals, crying so hard she can barely stand. Sandra Wu puts an arm around her. Patricia Chen takes her other hand. "Come on," Patricia says gently. "Let's go fix this." As they start to leave, Judge Caprio calls out, "Miss Sullivan, one more thing." Maggie turns. 6 months from now, when you're back on your feet, when you're working and stable, and those benefits are flowing, I want you to come back here, not as a defendant, as a guest. I want you to tell your story to this courtroom. I want other people to hear what you went through and how this community helped. Can you do that?" Maggie nods. "Yes, Your Honor, I promise." 6 months later, on a Wednesday morning, very much like the day of her case, Maggie Sullivan returns to Providence Municipal Court, but everything is different now. She's wearing professional clothes, her hair is styled, she's gained weight in the healthy way that comes from regular meals and reduced stress. She's employed as an office manager at DeMartino Construction. Her VA benefits are fully reinstated. She's living in that apartment, which she's now renting at a reduced rate because she refuses to accept charity forever. And she's carrying that same plastic bag, but this time it's for show and tell. Judge Caprio invites her to speak, and Maggie stands at the podium where 6 months ago she'd stood as a defendant. "Your Honor," she begins, her voice strong now, "6 months ago I came here thinking my life was over. I'd lost my husband, lost my home, lost my dignity. I stole food because I was hungry and hopeless." She looks out at the courtroom, which is packed because word spread that she was coming back. "Judge Caprio dismissed my case, but more than that, he saw me not as a criminal, but as a person who needed help."
And then this community, strangers I'd never met, stood up and gave me that help. She opens the plastic bag and carefully removes the medals now professionally mounted in a beautiful display case with a plaque that reads, "Sergeant Thomas Sullivan, USMC, 1970 to 2021, a Marine's Marine. My husband earned these serving his country. I tried to sell them because I thought I had no other choice. Mr. DiMartino," she nods to Frank in the gallery, "he made sure they have a place of honor in my home. Patricia Chen got my VA benefits reinstated, $800 a month plus health care. Sandra Wu furnished my entire apartment. Officer Rearin," she looks at him, "you arrested me with kindness. Mr. Murphy, you called the police not to punish me but to help me. And Judge Caprio, you reminded me that I wasn't a criminal. I was a veteran's widow who fell through the cracks. You gave me dignity when I had none left." She wipes her eyes, but she's smiling. "I'm working now, paying rent, paying taxes, contributing. But more than that, I'm living again. I'd stopped living after Tommy died. I was just surviving. You all gave me my life back." The courtroom is silent, hanging on every word. "So I came back today not just to thank you, but to make a promise. I'm going to volunteer with veterans services organizations. I'm going to help other widows navigate the VA system so they don't fall through the cracks like I did. I'm going to turn my pain into purpose." She holds up the medal display. "Tommy always said, a Marine never leaves a Marine behind. I'm not going to leave other military families behind either." Judge Caprio stands and applauds. The entire courtroom follows. Maggie Sullivan, who 6 months ago was homeless and shoplifting food, is now being given a standing ovation in the same courtroom where she was charged with a crime. Judge Caprio speaks. "Miss Sullivan, you've just demonstrated something powerful. You've shown that given a chance, given help, given dignity, people don't just survive, they thrive. They give back. They pay it forward." He looks at the courtroom. "This is why I do this job. Not to punish, to help. To see moments like this where someone who is broken becomes someone who helps others heal." A woman in the gallery raises her hand. Judge Caprio nods. Your Honor, my name is Rachel Morrison. I'm a producer for a veterans advocacy organization. We'd like to share Miss Sullivan's story nationally, with her permission to highlight both the gaps in the VA system and the power of community support. Maggie looked surprised. Me? On TV? Your story could help thousands of veterans' families, Rachel says. Show them they're not alone. Show them how to navigate the system. Show them that asking for help isn't weakness. Maggie looks at Judge Caprio uncertain. It's your choice, Maggie, he says, but I think your husband would be proud to know his story, your story, is helping other Marines and their families. Maggie clutches the metal display. If it helps even one family avoid what I went through, then yes, Tommy would want that. 3 months later, Maggie's story airs on national news. The segment focuses on VA benefits gaps, community support, and Judge Caprio's compassionate justice. Within weeks, the VA announces reforms to their widow benefits process, directly citing Maggie's case as an example of what needs to change. Maggie receives hundreds of letters from veterans' families thanking her for speaking out. Patricia Chen's law practice is flooded with requests from veterans needing help with benefits. Frank DiMartino starts a program providing temporary housing for homeless veterans. And Judge Caprio? He frames a photo of Maggie holding her husband's medals and hangs it in his office. Under it, a plaque reads, "Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about seeing people's humanity and responding with your own." 1 year after her case, Maggie Sullivan stands at a podium again, but this time it's at a veterans advocacy conference, and she's the keynote speaker. "My name is Margaret Sullivan," she begins, "and I'm the widow of Sergeant Thomas Sullivan, United States Marine Corps. A year ago, I was homeless and shoplifting food to survive. Today, I'm here to tell you that one judge saw me as a person instead of a criminal, and an entire community decided to help instead of judge." She tells the whole story. The medals she couldn't sell, the judge who stopped everything to help, the strangers who stood up with offers of support, the transformation from hopeless to hopeful. The VA system has gaps, she says, but communities don't have to. If every city had a Judge Caprio, someone willing to see past the crime to the person, someone willing to stop and say, "This person needs help, not punishment," we could change thousands of lives. The audience, filled with veterans, advocates, and social workers, gives her a standing ovation. After her speech, a young woman approaches. "Miss Sullivan, my name is Amy. My husband is deployed right now, Iraq. I'm terrified that if something happens to him, I'll end up where you were." Maggie takes her hands. "No, you won't, because now you know to ask for help immediately. You know what resources exists. You have my number now." She hands her a card. "And if you ever need anything, you call me. That's my promise. No Marine's family gets left behind. Not on my watch." Subscribe if you believe that second chances matter and that communities should lift each other up instead of turning their backs. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and share a moment when a stranger stepped in during your hardest time. You never know who your story might help. Margaret Sullivan walked into that courtroom as a defendant, but she walked out surrounded by people who finally saw her. And that happened because Judge Frank Caprio didn't just read her charges, he read her pain. He didn't see a shoplifter. He saw a human being carrying the weight of battles the rest of the world never bothered to notice. This is the kind of moment that defines the legacy Judge Caprio leaves behind. Justice with compassion, authority with heart, and a belief that humanity should never be lost in the process of enforcing the law. Maggie's story reminds us of something powerful. Behind every crime, there might be a tragedy. Behind every defendant, there might be a forgotten hero. Behind every file number, there is a life waiting to be understood. Judge Caprio didn't just see Maggie. He saved her
from disappearing into a system that failed her long before she ever stepped into that courtroom. That isn't just justice. That's what true humanity looks like. And that's why we share these stories. This is Case Closed, where we honor the legacy of Judge Frank Caprio by telling the stories that prove justice can have a heart. If you believe in compassion over judgment, if you believe in lifting people up when the world pushes them down, hit subscribe and join a community that still believes in doing what's right.